Do you believe it's possible to build a property portfolio using other people's money? Well, in this video series, I'm going to teach you how to do exactly that. So in the last video, I told you about two chocolate men who had corporate careers at Cadbury's. One of them was able to replace their income in 8 years from property, and the other was able to replace their income in just 8 months. How was that possible? Well, the second person who did in 8 months followed an exact system. And in the last video, I'll tell you what that system was. So if you didn't see the first video, you might want to click on the link above, go and watch that video. And in this video, I'm going to explain how you can build that property portfolio using other people's money. So what do I know about using other people's money to invest in property? Well, my very first investment was using other people's money. You see, I'd finished university, I didn't have a job for a year, and finally I was able to get a great job at Cadbury's. My dream job, and that's what I was conditioned to do, to go to school, get a good education, go to college or university, and then get a really good corporate job. And that's what I thought I was going to do. That's what I thought my career path. And as soon as I got a job, I thought, well, I need to get a house as well. So I thought about maybe I can get my own home. And I've been living in student accommodation in Selly Oak in Birmingham, and that was just next to Bourneville, where Cadbury's is based. So I thought, well, why don't I buy a house here in Selly Oak? And in fact, some of my friends living at university might want to live with me, and I worked out the rent they could pay me could pretty much cover the mortgage and most of the bills, so I could live for free. So that was the plan. The only problem was, a house was going to cost about £50,000 and I didn't have 50p. In fact, I had an overdraft, I had a student debt, and there was no way I could afford to buy a house. The one thing I did have was my job offer at Cadbury's. And because of that job offer, I was able to go and get a first-time buyer's mortgage for 95%. So that was 95% of the purchase taken care of. But I didn't have the 5% deposit, I didn't have the money for my legal costs, I didn't have the money to move or any furniture. So what I had to do was find someone else who could give me or lend me the money. And I asked my mum and dad that they really weren't in a position to help me at that time. But my mother said, well, how about if you speak to your grandmother? You see, my grandmother had just sold a property. She was actually moving in with my parents in their new home. And so she had some money in the bank. And I spoke to her, and of course she wanted to help her grandson. But she didn't want to just give me the money. And she said, well, Simon, I'll lend you the money. And what that means is you can pay me interest. And then when you could afford it, you can pay the money back. And we did a deal so that she was actually making more money than she would make in the bank. And obviously I had the ability to put down a deposit using none of my own money. So it was a true win-win. And the reason I'm telling you this is because most people think they'd love to invest in property. They'd love to get enough property to replace their income so they can start doing what they really want with their time. But they think they don't have enough money, thus they think they can't invest in property. But when you know how, and when you can find great properties, ones that will make great profit, like these shared houses, then you will be able to find other people who will lend you money to invest, just like I did. So let me give you an example of that. So I want to tell you about Curtis. So Curtis Jackson lives in Nottingham. He was 27 years old when I met him. And he had a friend who had just come and done some training with us. Had done a year-long mastermind program. And his friend, who used to work for the police, had completely replaced his income. Curtis said, I want to do that. The only problem was Curtis had no money. You know, he came from a fairly working class background. He thought none of his friends or family had any savings. He was pretty much spending everything he was earning, but he had a determination. He had a belief that he wanted a better life for him and his partner. So he came and spoke to me, I explained what he could do, and I shared with him my step-by-step process. And what he did was he came on our mastermind program, and on that program, he built up a substantial portfolio of HMO properties. Now, he used a couple of different strategies, but he realized he really wanted to own the property. There are strategies you can use where you just make profit, you don't actually own it, but he wanted to own the asset. And he did that by working with other people. So he found a great property. Now, he lives in Nottingham, but he decided to invest in Derby because it worked slightly better. So if where you live, it doesn't stack up so well, the challenges, there'll always be somewhere very close where it will work really well. And so he found this property that was on the market for £90,000. Now, he spotted the potential. This was a 3-bedroom house. It needed some work doing to it, but it could easily be converted into a 5-bedroom HMO. So he went round and saw the property. He loved it. He saw the potential. Yes, it needed money spending on it, but he put an offer in and said, look, I'll give you the full asking price if you take it off the market. The agent spoke to the owner agreed, he took the offer, and Curtis was delighted. So Curtis went through the process of applying for the mortgage company sent out a surveyor, and the surveyor said, well, yeah, it's a great property, but you know what? There are some things need doing to it. Now Curtis knew this, but when the offer came through from the mortgage company, they said, well, we're going to retain £7,500. Now, mortgage companies do this very often. If work needs doing, they want you to do the work before they give you all the money. Now, this is a great tip. You see, when you get a valuation, if you get a down valuation or retention, you can use that to negotiate. So Curtis went back to the owners and said, look, I want to buy this property. I've got the money ready to go. I've got the mortgage approved. The only problem is they've said they want to hold back £7,500 until the work's done. And I don't have that £7,500. So Curtis used that to negotiate an extra £7,500 off the price. So he bought this house for £82,500 instead of £90,000. 90 was already a good deal. Now, the house needed lots of money spending on it. It needed about £55,000 to spend on the conversion. He also needed the money for the deposit, the stamp duty, the legal costs. In fact, £91,000 was required. There was one slight problem. Curtis was a little bit short, about £91,000 short, because he had none of his own money. But what he did was he found someone else, someone he knew who did have some equity, who did have some money. So what happened was he actually worked with his dad. Now, he'd explained to his dad what he was doing. He showed him the deal. He showed him the numbers. And his dad said, you know what, Curtis, I'm going to back you. So what happened was his dad remortgaged the family home, took out the £91,000 required and lent that money to Curtis. Curtis did a great job. He converted the 3-bedroom house into a 5-bedroom HMO. He significantly increased the floor space and thus the value of the property. So what that meant was when Curtis went for a remortgage, the value of the property as a 5-bed HMO was £200,000. He'd significantly increased the value by buying below market value and then adding value and refinancing. So with an 80% loan to value mortgage, the new mortgage was £160,000. What that meant was it was enough to get back all of the money that his dad had put in, the £91,000, and an extra £15,000, which he split with his dad. Once the house is rented out, it makes just over £1,400 profit a month. That's after the mortgage, the insurance, the maintenance, all of the bills. That's £1,400 profit. Now, Curtis did a joint venture with his dad. He was prepared to give his dad half of the deal because his dad backed him. And guess what? When his dad held all the money back, he said, let's go and do another one. But what it means is both Curtis and his dad get just over £700 each from the property with none of their own money invested. And they're going to get that every month for as long as they own that property. Now, how many of those properties would you need to replace your income? Curtis, in a year, got up to £98,000 of rental income. That's his share of the profit by taking money, recycling it, and quickly bringing it back through properties. And what I want to do, I want to teach you that strategy. It's called momentum investing, and it's a great way to quickly build your portfolio using other people's money. So the strategy I want to share with you now is called momentum investing. And the reason it's called momentum investing, it means you can quickly recycle your deposit and go and buy another property. So let me explain how that works. So when you buy a property, let's say you buy for £100,000 and you buy below market value by finding a motivated seller, and you can add value to that property by changing it from maybe a 3-bed to a 5 or a 6-bed, you're going to increase the value. Now, once you've owned the property for 6 months, you can remortgage it. You can go to a new mortgage company and say, I've got this property worth £200,000. You can show them the rental income you have for the property, and then they will give you a 75 or 80% mortgage based on the new value of the property. And if that new mortgage is more than the original mortgage and all the money you've put in, it means you can recycle your entire deposit, and you can then either give that back to the person who lent it to you, or you can put it into another property and go and buy another one. The really cool thing about this is it's a way of using someone else's money, and it's a way of paying them back without selling the house. So what that means is you do the hard work once, and then you get paid on that property forever. Every single month, you get an income for as long as you own that property. And you've given that person their money back. Guess what? Because you've given them a great return on their money, they're probably going to want to give it to you again so you can do another property. Now, you can do this with your own money, you can do it with someone else's money. What this means is you don't need your own money to invest in property, if only you know how. You've got to find the right properties in the first place. You know how to fix them up, which when you know how is actually very straightforward. Now you might be sitting there thinking, well, why on earth would someone lend me money to do this? And there are a couple of reasons. Obviously, they're going to want to get something out of it. Maybe they want to help you. My grandmother wanted to help me on my first property because I was a grandson. But you know what? It wasn't a gift, it was a loan. I had to pay it back to her with interest. But I was easily able to do that because the rental income my friends are paying. When you have a multi-let, a shared property, the rental income you come in, you can pay interest to someone. You can pay capital back to them by refinancing and taking all the money out. Now, you can either do a private loan where someone lends you some money, you give them a great rate of return, you give it back to them, or you can do a joint venture like Curtis did, where although he gave the money back, he was still sharing some cash flow and equity growth because it was his dad, his family, and he wanted to give his dad a better life as well as having a better life for himself, which is a pretty great thing to do. So why on earth would someone lend you money? And you may think, I don't know anybody with money. Well, let me reassure you, there are probably people you know who have money in the bank, but you may not know they have money in the bank because in this country, it's not seen as etiquette to talk about what you have. But I guarantee you'll have family, friends, work colleagues, people who may have inherited some money, they may have sold some shares or sold a business or sold a property, and they've got money sitting in the bank. Now, anybody who's got money in the bank right now has actually got a problem. You see, interest rates, the Bank of England interest rate is 0.75%. And what that means is the money people are earning in the bank is less than the rate of inflation. So if anybody's got money in the bank, at the end of the year, it's worth less than it was at the beginning of the year because inflation is eating away at their money. So instead of leaving it in the bank where the money is just decaying, instead they can lend it to you and they can help you and you can help them. And this is the key. It's not about you going cap in hand begging for money because no one wants to do that. When you know how, you can actually get people wanting to lend you money for your properties, for your HMOs, because they are going to get a much better return than they would get in the bank. It's about finding this win-win that works for them and works for you. Now, why are they going to lend to you? Well, obviously, it's going to be someone you know, like and trust. They want to help you out. But remember, they're benefiting as well. And to make yourself investable, you've got to be excited about what property can do for you. You've got to know what you're doing. Obviously, it will be foolish to try and do this on your own. But when you have a step-by-step proven plan to follow, then you'll know exactly how to do this. You'll know how to make money not just once, but every time you buy one of these cash generating properties. It's like having your very own cash machine. Work once, get paid forever. And remember, you don't need many of these cash machines to completely replace your income, and then you can start spending your time doing whatever you want to do with your life. That's why this is such an exciting opportunity. And with the ability to use other people's money, it means anybody can quickly build a portfolio that's going to generate an income to replace the income they earn from their job or from their business. Why shouldn't it be you? So to summarize this video, you don't need to have a lot of money or even any of your own money to be a successful property investor. And by finding people who have money in the bank that's maybe not doing anything, when you know how to speak to them, you can use their money to put into a property project, you can add value, you can then recycle it, give all their money back, and you retain the asset. That is incredibly powerful, and if you get that concept, it's going to change your life. So what I suggest you do is start thinking about who do you know, and don't judge anyone. You might think, oh, they don't have any money or they won't lend to me. You don't know until you ask them. So what I suggest is put together a list of all the people you know, and you can start systematically working through them to see who would like to get a better return on their money. Now, in the next video, I'm going to share with you how once you've got these properties, you don't have to spend all your time managing them. You know, I started managing properties in the first place, but you know, it doesn't take much work to do one or two. But if you start getting lots, it can take a bit of time. And at the end of the day, the reason you're investing in property is probably to have choice and freedom to do whatever you want to do with your time. So you don't really want to be managing properties. Now, you might think, well, I could just give them to a letting agent and pay 10%. And yes, you could do that. But in the next video, I've got a surprise for you, because there's a way you can actually get someone else to look after your property, pay you the full rent, and they take on all the hassle, which means you don't have any of your time involved. And I'm going to share that in the next video. So if you like this video, please put some comments below. Please share it with anyone who you think might benefit from watching. And I look forward to seeing you in the third video.